What's up? What's up? Can you guys hear me? Testing out the stream. Seems like we should be live. Wait for a few people to pop into the chat. Lots of stuff going on. Did you guys well, let me see. Let me make sure. Let's test out this audio for you guys so we're not blowing your eardrums out. All right, thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sounds good. Hey, New Brunswick checking in. And yes, I do agree. Jimmy Kimmel is back, but he will probably not be funny. And yeah, I agree. I do think like the big thing that I said originally when Jimmy Kimmel was canceled is because those talk shows, like, they set money on fire because those guys sign insane contracts. Like, I remember seeing it was Jimmy Fallon who got like $20 million a year or something like that. And that's not even operational costs. That was just like in salary. So having that, and then again, Jimmy Kimmel's just so objectively not funny. So yeah, let's try and see if we can get some videos to play. Let me know. I'm playing a video in the background. How loud is that for you guys? Loud.
Welcome to CTV News, Your Canada. It's Monday, September 22nd. We'll bring you profiles of fascinating Canadians and stories about your community. Thanks for watching.
Dressed head to toe in yellow, Trevor Redmond is easy to spot on the shoulder of the Trans-Canada Highway. The Halifax native who lived in Calgary for 25 years calls his journey a run for courage.
I want people, Canadians, to encourage us to get.
What do you think, guys? Can somebody comment in the chat how loud that is for you guys? Like, is it pretty similar levels to when I talk? Can't hear it on my end the same way. Yeah, we've got lots of stuff that so basically, for everybody who's here, thank you for popping in. Yeah, I'm not from the South. I'm just talking funny because I got strep throat. It's giving me a Southern accent. No, so what happened was I had to run to the doctor's office today. I don't know if you guys remembered last week when I said, hey guys, I'm pretty sick. I'm not going to be able to post today. I've been battling strep throat for a week. I didn't know it was strep until I went to the doctor today. And my doctor lives, well, his office is very far from where I live. And so by the time I drove all the way there, it's an hour and 10 minutes there, hour and 10 minutes back. I had no time to get a video filmed and ready, so I figured let's do a stream. Let's watch some news live and see what they got talking about right now. Did you guys see? Yes, honey and salt water. I was doing that. Because normally I hate taking antibiotics. I'm not a big fan. I do everything I can. I actually haven't taken antibiotics in like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years, quite a while. But this will just not go away, and it's impacting my videos. So I have to make sure that clear up the throat. But yeah, let's pop into, just because we've got a bunch of people showing up and we're talking about Jimmy Kimmel stuff for a bit. Let's go into the CBC news coverage of it. Yeah. Yeah, John, I didn't watch Jimmy Kimmel either, but it's, you know, he's back. Let's see what their justification is.
You don't need to have a fancy title to have someone manage your schedule, meetings, and priorities. I used to waste Disney says it is putting Jimmy Kimmel back on the air. The late night show was suspended amid criticism of Kimmel's comments on the shooting death of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. And the CBC's Hilary Johnstone has more details just coming into our newsroom just a short time ago. Maybe a surprise to a lot of people. What can you tell us?
You know what? Not only is it a surprise, I know I don't want to interrupt them too much, but the big question I have is, where did the actual pressure come from? And you guys can weigh in down below where you think it came from, only because when I saw like the protesters and like the people who were out there, it was like 6 people like, yeah, bring Jimmy back. So how much pressure, and from what organizations, like what was it? The only theory that I have is there's some sort of contract that it's like, hey, if you don't put this out there, it's going to be worth like, you're going to owe Jimmy still like $100 million. Like, and then they're going, okay, well, if we already owe him $100 million anyways, let's just put the show out. You know, I don't know.
The past couple of minutes, we got this statement from Disney saying that Jimmy Kimmel will return to the air tomorrow night, so Tuesday evening. And of course, this comes after days of no word from Disney about what the future was going to hold for Jimmy Kimmel Live, because you'll remember that when they first pulled his show off the air, they said that they were doing that indefinitely, but then did not provide a lot of other details about what was going to come next. So we'll read you this statement here from Disney. It says, quote, "Last Wednesday, we made the decision to suspend production on the show to avoid further inflaming a tense situation at an emotional moment for our country. It is a decision we made because we felt some of the comments were ill-timed and thus insensitive. We have spent the last days having thoughtful conversations with Jimmy, and after those conversations, we reached the decision to return the show on Tuesday." And of course,
Jeff, girls jumping on trampolines, was that from the Man Show?
you'll remember, Andrew, that all of this happened in the wake of criticism over comments that Jimmy Kimmel had made during a monologue early last week about the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, who, of course, we just saw that memorial service for him in Arizona just yesterday. And he was pulled off the air. ABC suspended Kimmel indefinitely after those comments. And we heard from some of ABC's main affiliates, including Nexstar and Sinclair at the time, that they were going to not air his show if Disney didn't step in and take these steps. Of course, that then.
So again, like guys, comment down below just for what you think some of the reasons would be why they decided to bring him back, because they're not truly saying here. And I do, again, some people, TP, you said celebrities there, but like what celebrity pressure would be enough to get like Disney to bring him back? And I just don't get it. Like, his audience is just dwindling like crazy. He used to even crush it on YouTube. That used to be the other thing, where it'd be like, oh, okay, well, generally people think that TV ratings are falling on the whole. So if that's the case, you know, keep these, the clips going. And then you'd see like Jimmy Kimmel clips and Ellen DeGeneres clips and Fallon. And those things would get like 8 million views, 10 million views, do insane views. But even those on the whole have been like dropping. Like, people just aren't as interested in these guys anymore, particularly because they're pretty annoying. But when it comes again to the celebrity side of things, that when they were originally putting out news stories, this is the thing that I found insane, was the Canadian media was putting out news stories saying, hey, you should feel bad for Jimmy Kimmel because he's like so innocent in this. Like, think about it. He's got a family. Like, oh, shouldn't you be sad for Jimmy Kimmel? And I remember thinking, okay, media, Canadian media, you've not spoken at all about how sad people should be for Charlie Kirk's family, you know, with that tragedy that happened there. But Jimmy Kimmel losing his job, Jimmy Kimmel, the guy who's probably worth $100 million, we're supposed to feel bad for his family that he got taken off the air. I was like, all right, seriously? Like, that's the spin that these guys want to take?
Prompted this huge backlash, concerns about the future of free speech and the First Amendment in America. And now we do have this news. And of course, you'll also know that in recent days, there have been growing calls for a boycott of Disney Plus, of Hulu, of Disney-owned theme parks even. So certainly Disney was in sort of a tricky place here, trying to figure out how to proceed with all of this.
And there's been some star pressure power
Francois, do you think that them canceling
putting
the
Kimmel
service
back on the air,
big?
right?
That many people?
Absolutely. So just earlier today, actually, some 400 stars signed signed this open letter saying that they were concerned about the direction of free speech in America, trying to put pressure on Disney to bring him back, or at the very least trying to put pressure on other media companies not to take a similar route here. Some of the stars that signed this open letter included Jennifer Aniston, Jane Fonda, Robert De Niro, Tom Hanks, Ben Stiller, Jamie Lee Curtis, just to name a couple of people there. And then, of course, Andrew.
Basically, she just listed off a laundry list of celebrities who wanted to take away your rights because you wouldn't get the old jab during all of that going on. Every celebrity she said there was the one saying, like, yeah, you guys shouldn't even get access to healthcare if you don't get that. Actually, in fact, you shouldn't even be allowed to eat in restaurants, and we'll tell you how to live your life. But how dare you take Jimmy Kimmel off?
Just you and I last week were talking about reaction and ABC's The View, the talk show where you have those 5 co-hosts every day discussing main stories. They were not commenting on Jimmy Kimmel's firing. Well, today co-host Whoopi Goldberg actually opened the show by saying, no one silences us. So certainly lots of reaction. I'm sure there'll be lots of reaction to this news as well.
Yeah.
So the thing is, and I said in my video too, I think the private corporations are well within their right to cancel any program that they want based on the speech that's used. So it's, if you're a private corporation, that's like where I kind of like really want to delineate the difference between what free speech is, in my personal opinion, and you guys can comment down below what you think. But when it comes to the private corporations, they are allowed to control your speech, unfortunately. Like, if you exist within the realm of the private corporation, that's the way that it works. But then when it comes to, the government, I don't want the government to be in a position to control free speech. I think when it comes to, the constitutional rights, First Amendments, any of those things, like, free speech should supersede almost every law so that there's no recourse and there's nothing like that. Jeff, we've got a bunch of videos specifically on that topic, actually. I lined up, so don't worry. Jeff's asking about Operation Curry Bomb for the people watching. So yes, we've got a lot of immigration stories here to get into, because we're actually going to talk about some of the H-1B stuff, but then we've got, not to get derailed from the free speech stuff too quickly, but we've got a bunch of videos just kind of showing the foreign entrepreneurs and like what they actually think about the countries that they're coming and benefiting from, and that but of course we're the ones who benefit the most when they show up with their awesome businesses. But and that's sarcasm for you guys, but you see how, you know what, let's just jump into it. I have a bunch of, we were gonna go into other stuff, other articles, because I actually had an article that I wanted to talk about that made a bunch more sense for the economy, but I want to get into this. Let's get into this. No, that's not the one. Well, this one kind of sets the tone. I don't know if you guys can read this here. So this was just a tweet, and it said, I don't think people realize that it's a global Indian foreign entrepreneur situation. And it's being done on purpose and pushed hard by the Indian government. And we've talked about this in the videos, that they're going to be fighting hard. So he says, we will fight hard the H-1B visas and visa fraud, but understand that India is taking millions, or taking, okay. Maybe I can't read, maybe he can't write. Millions of their people into their trade deals with countries because they can't produce anything and use their people for remittance money, which we talk about on the channel, and how economically unproductive that is when you bring over foreign people that, are now going to be suppressing the local wages and then increasing demand just through like quantitative peopling. But then a lot of that money is now just sent back to India. And people don't understand like the scale of which this is happening, because, Canada alone has millions and millions of Indians who are sending some level of remittance back home. Now you factor in, what is the economic value of that money not being paid to local citizens? And that's just Canada. That's not including the US. That's not including New Zealand, Australia, the UK, all of these places. And if you look at just the amount of Indian diaspora who's not even in India, they're all over the world, you'd probably have like the 3rd largest country in the world population. Not that high, but it would be a large country, probably larger than the population of Canada, if you take all of the global diaspora who's out there sending remittance back home. And then you look at like, okay, what is that actually worth to all of those economies? Because everybody keeps saying like, oh, India is growing and the consumer base is getting better and consumption, like, oh, we're actually seeing demand is there. And it's because that money is being sent from the Western countries directly to India as like inadvertently. For them, it's industry. So we're not even talking about the direct scamming where they have full offices set in place just to extract the wealth. Yeah. Any of the ones who end up with old age security, like in my personal opinion, unless you're in like an extremely specific, like you're a doctor or something that the country actually needs, it doesn't make a ton of sense to bring over immigrants who are like 50 plus years old who often have you guys been hearing about what's been happening from India? The people have also been listing their age as older so they get access to the old age benefits earlier. So anyways, basically what this tweet was saying to kind of set the tone is that this is a business line for them. Like, so you know how in the West we have industry that we want to create, that it's like, oh, we could invest in energy or resources or finance or construction, like, whatever industry we have, their industry is sending out people to vacuum money out of the Western countries and then send it back home. And they view it to like such a level of entitlement. I really wanted to feature yeah. So Canada in particular, Matt, we'll get into that topic in a second because some of the videos we're going to talk about with the government today, especially with some of the leaked audio and some of those things, it's pretty clear at this point that Canada has a antagonistic government that is doing everything they can to specifically hurt Canada, and they're willing to do things that are being done 100% for political reasons. That has, again, nothing to do with if they think it's right or wrong. They just go, oh, this is the political optics, so this is how we have to play the game. But it's often at the expense of Canada, which is insane. And yeah, so they don't spend a lot of that money in Canada. It ends up going back to India, Jeff, you're right. But so this is a tweet that I wanted to feature specifically because look at the mindset that we have here. And this is the mindset of the people who come over and they're sending all of their remittances back home. Like, it's just viewed as an extraction event, like a gold mine. It's not viewed in any capacity on like, how can we build in that country? How can we like make sure that we're part of the community here and then we make it better? It's how can we take as much as we want? Because look at the mindset here. America is a nation that was illegally colonized. First of all, illegally based on whose laws? Because if it's illegally colonized, there has to be some sort of national law that's recognized to make that colonizing illegal. Well, certainly any of the native population didn't have any of those in place. In fact, they actually honored laws that was right of conquest. So if you were to conquer a piece of land, now you owned that piece of land, somebody would have to conquer it from you. So again, this is the classic meme of like, hello, let me tell you about your country. I'm not from there, but I'll tell you all about it. So illegally colonized by white Europeans by abusing the natives. Okay, again, illegally based on what? The modern development of America was done with the money Europeans looted from India. First of all, insane reach. That's another thing. Okay. Guys, anytime you see Indians on the internet talk about the wealth that has been looted from India, they use obscene numbers that would require more money than ever existed in the history of money that has existed. So I always laugh because they'll be like, oh, the UK... Yeah, exactly, Peter. But they'll be like, oh, okay, so the UK looted $200 trillion from India. And it's like, I don't think they looted 200 trillion. That seems unlikely. But yeah, the spices. But the big thing is, so I found out, like, I'm like, how are they pricing these things? And so they'll take like random diamonds and objects, like things that would be considered like priceless in theory. So like, oh, this crown diamond that the UK has, and it's worth $10 billion. A single diamond is worth $10 billion according to the internet. And you go, okay, sorry, Jeff. Yeah, exactly. If you ever wondered what mental gymnastics look like, Julie. But, you know, it's, you look at it and they go, oh, well, that one diamond's worth $10 billion to the Indian economy. And it's like, based on what? You have no frame of reference. You're now talking about a priceless diamond. The reason it's called priceless is because there's no way to price the value of that diamond. So sure, the diamond's worth $1 gajillion. Like, just make up any insane number that you want. So it's like, it doesn't make any sense. But finishing her tweet here, just because, again, I want to show where the mindset is of these people. The modern development of America, again, it's a crazy stretch, was done with the money Europeans looted from India. Indians have more right to the resources of America than white Europeans. So this mental gymnastics, this stretch, this person says that because British people looted India, allegedly, you know, looted, whatever, colonized, now Indians have more rights to the resources of America than white Europeans. Again, based on what? Because you have to go, okay, if it was illegally colonized, then you would have zero rights regardless. Like, if the entire fundamental thing was done illegally, then you have, like, then nobody would have the rights to, like, they have no level of logical thinking when it comes to, like, the coherency of their statements. Like, they just shout these things out and they're like, oh, okay, we're just gonna make these things up as we go along. But again, why I wanted to show, this isn't the end of, like, her stuff in particular. So then this person says, and this type of attitude that makes, and this is the type of attitude that makes us want you to be deported. And then, so she actually lives in Germany, which is even funnier. And then she said, and this is the type of attitude of which whites should be colonized and taught a lesson. So this person believes whites should be, hello, Brian, whites should be colonized and taught a lesson. This is her logical thinking. So in her mind, colonizing is illegal unless the Indians do it, in which case it becomes one of their largest business lines because they choose that they will come. And so in their mind, again, the reason why this tweet is so important to me, because in their mind, they are colonizing. They are not coming to America. They are not coming to Canada. They are not coming to the UK, any of these countries, and saying, like, yeah, we want to be part of your awesome nation. She is in Germany right now, in her mind, colonizing because she has the right to do so. And I just think these are the things that, like, need to be talked about, because often you'll see lots of conversations and, oh, you know, a lot of these people are here to help out. They just want to be part of the society. It's like, yeah, sure, some people are, of course. Like, you can't say every single person thinks like she does. But the fact is, there's been a certain radicalization over the last 20 years where these people have chosen that this is the way that they want to view coming to these other countries. They say, okay, you know what? You guys looted us. We're going to get you back. And it's like, whoa, got a little too much dip on your chip there. I think maybe you guys should hold back a little bit. Because even like these guys, this guy, allegedly, this guy's an internet comedian. But look at what he says as an internet comedian. Like, again, just the view of entitlement that, like, I have a piece of paper now. That means I get to tell you everything about your country. Sorry, man. So yes, Jeff got me started. If anybody's mad that I'm yelling about the foreign entrepreneurs and we're not talking about Kimmel and the other government stuff, blame Jeff. That was supposed to happen later. Listen, guys, I'm sending this warning out now. If you want to get me started on foreign entrepreneurs, we'll talk about it. That's the warning. Yeah, nobody actually get mad at Jeff. I'm just kidding. I'm happy Jeff's here. Okay, let's play this video. Let me know what the audio. Jeff, I'm just joking, man. We're having fun. We're having fun because my throat hurts and I wasn't able to film, so we're doing it live. We're Bill O'Reillying it. If you guys get the meme, here we go.
Yes, I am an immigrant. Sorry, let me correct that. I am a proud immigrant. Just like 95% of the Canadian population. including browns, blacks, and whites. Now let's entertain the idea of sending all the immigrants back. Who are we sending back? What criteria are we following?
There's a pretty clear criteria. Canada has an old flag. It was the Dominion flag. It had the 4 countries that sent over colonizers, settlers, builders, whatever you want to say. And you can use the same thing for every nation. It doesn't matter. I mean, for one, the UK does have an indigenous people. And then 2, America, all that stuff it's pretty clear cut.
Are we sending back all the recent immigrants, or are we sending back all the immigrants? All I know is, if all the immigrants are going back, it's not just blacks and browns. There's going to be a surge in European travel too.
See, this is why I get so mad. Because this guy he didn't go to school for the nation's history. He didn't grow up learning the nation's history. So he actually has no idea. This guy's got his information from Instagram comment sections and said, no, you know, all European, they're immigrants too. That's not how it works, because then you ask them, yeah, exactly. Like, this is not how immigration works. You go, okay, when the British came over to Canada, when the British came over to America, when the French came over to Canada and the US, like we're going to, talking about North America mostly here. When those people came over to both of those nations, ask them, where did they immigrate to? And they go, well, they immigrated to America. They immigrated to Canada. No, they didn't. Those places didn't exist. So where did they immigrate to? Well, they immigrated to the continent and blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay, so there was no laws. There was no society. There was literally zero organization. And these people, based on nothing but just sheer will. And it's so impressive when you think about how, like, first of all, go out sometime if you don't live in, like, a super populated city at night. It's pitch black, which means these people had to show up to a land that they had never experienced and go, holy smokes, there's no lights, there's no people, there's strange wendigo in the forest. There's all sorts of things like going on that they just had to figure out. And then if you do see people who are there, those people most likely are going to try and kill you. And these people came over and built some of the most desirable, best countries in the entire world. And then this guy, who has no idea on the history of how these nations were completely settled, colonized, built, organized, especially considering they follow European laws, Christian values, all of these things that are like fundamental to these societies. This guy comes over and says, well, you know what? You're an immigrant. Like, no, that's not how it works. Yes, you do get to heckle this guy. I mean, he's not funny. I've seen his clips. It's like, yeah, he's not very funny. Yes, established, built, clearly planned. Yeah, there you go. Migrated up from Mexico. So, Matt Smith says he's so old. Toronto was the most beautiful city. You know what? Toronto was a nice city, and especially like I think the thing that gets me the most frustrated about most of the large populous Canadian cities is, first of all, it used to take me no time to drive to Toronto. It used to take me like an hour. Now that's double. And then you see all of the people around you on the road, and there's a clear group of people who you're seeing. And then they go, oh, well, they don't actually impact traffic. And it's like, are you sure? Are you sure about that? Because to me, it seems like the traffic's being affected. Wow. Okay, we're turning into too much for an entrepreneur rant. But actually, another thing that I wanted to show, this is supposed to be later, but so I have not talked about the $100 billion deficit, but to be honest, Boro State Blues, I think that 100 billion is going to be low. I actually think that they're going to smash through a deficit that we've never seen before. I think it's going to be 120 or more. Just based on the amount that they've promised. And I specifically want to like highlight another industry again that I had planned for the stream, that it just goes to show how wasteful all of this liberal spending is. And like, again, you know, you can compare it to Democrats in the States. Like somehow they can just set billions on fire and nothing happens. I wanted to so this guy, his name's Hermes. He's big on like Instagram and TikTok and all of those things. But he asks a video here on like priority for this local person here. And I think it's worth noting what this guy says, because this is a mindset, in my opinion, that has to change for pretty much everybody in the West based on what this guy puts as priority here.
Would you rather let in 1 million more Indians into England or never watch football again?
Oh, I'll have to let him in.
You what?
I'll have to let him in.
Let him in?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they can come in for a short time.
A short time?
Yeah, you didn't say how long.
Tries to sneak his way out of it, you know. Oh, well, you didn't say how long, but it's like, you know, that's 1 million people just so you can watch soccer. I think you might be selling out your country for soccer, but let's continue because it gets worse.
Let them in, and then I can watch football.
What about some Muslims or never watch football? But forever, they have to stay in England forever.
I have to stay in England forever. I'll let a few in.
A million is a lot more than a few.
That's all I can comment on, lads.
Would you rather let in?
So he was willing to let in 1 million, like essentially invaders, so that he could watch soccer. And I think that's like the big. I'm not going to weigh into the UK stuff too much because we've got enough problems here in North America with Canada and the US. But the soccer culture there is like even worse than any of like, you know, I'm going to say American football culture or hockey culture or anything else there. Just like how obsessed they are and how much like priority they put on that. But don't worry, guys. Doug, the liberal slug who stinks like a pug, Chub Ford himself. What's wrong with adopting the same immigration policies as Thailand? I'm not familiar with their immigration policies, so I can't weigh in, unfortunately. But don't worry. Doug Ford's here to tell us to celebrate Navratri.
I want to extend a warm greeting to Ontario's Hindu community as you celebrate Navratri. May the spirit of Navratri bring peace, prosperity, and happiness to you and your loved ones. Wishing everyone across Ontario a wonderful Navratri.
Yeah, that's really important right now, I'd say, especially based on the new chain immigration laws that we're passing in Canada, allowing, you know, read the room, liberals. It has nothing to do with the fact that, you know, we're getting millions of foreign entrepreneurs instantly. Why don't we just give chain immigration to all of their kids and everything? Okay, let's read the chat a little bit. He's a dust chugger. He is for sure. I don't know what that means, so I don't know if that's bad. At least the traffic here in the U.S. is great without all the Canadian drivers. That's probably a good point, because if you do have tourism down, especially in a lot of those border states, which is the same thing that I was saying, like traffic being brutal here in Canada. Who is the most comical Canadian politician I've ever seen? This dude is like a walking comedy show. I mean, seriously, if it was an act, he could be on Saturday Night Live when it used to be funny. If you're talking about Doug Ford, yes, he actually is probably the most unintentionally comedic. Like, just because you gotta respect the comedy of it, because he gets caught in like situations all the time. And obviously you guys know or remember his brother, who was a lot more crazy, let's just say that. But Doug Ford, he'll just do the dumbest stuff that I'm like, okay, that can't be real, right? Like we're not gonna pretend like he's a real serious leader. But I think just it was just so interesting that the Ontario Liberals had just made themselves so unlikable that somehow Doug Ford was like the better option for the second time. I do agree, RC. They do belong in jail, especially with a lot of these new announcements we're seeing. Oh, yeah, I had this one queued up. So a lot of people have been distracted and mad about the recent Palestine announcement. You know, guys, we're just racking up controversial back-to-back. But the mad about the Palestine announcement from the Canadian government. I'm not even that mad about that one. I'm mad about this meeting here because today President Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah and I discussed how Canada and Namibia can deepen our partnership and empower workers by creating more opportunities for trade and investment in both our nations. If you're curious, the total GDP of Namibia is 13 billion. We're about to set that on fire on a bunch of random projects, housing projects that are, double that on housing projects that are not even going to get built. Somehow we're meeting with these countries who can't even afford our housing projects that the government's paying for. That's only building, 4,000 houses allegedly. But yeah, slush fund projects. Exactly, Peter. And so, but don't worry, we're specifically avoiding meeting with Donald J. Trump because we've got this. I laughed so hard when I saw this announcement. And these, honestly, you have to laugh because, in my personal opinion, the Liberal government now is like so despicable that if we don't laugh, we're all going to go crazy. Like, wow, we're calling out their stuff because they are so insane with everything that they do. So you see this and you go, okay, well, you're actively still not meeting with Donald Trump. You made the Palestine announcement, which we knew was going to be controversial for the Americans. And Dave, you know what? You don't have to laugh, but I do, because all day I sit here watching their announcements, watching the new laws, watching, these stories break. And it's like, if I wasn't laughing, I would just be punching a hole through all my walls, because I would not be happy. But, just quickly, just to show how hilariously bad the Liberal government is at like industry protection. So we had this article here from the Globe and Mail. It's called Back to the Drawing Board. And it basically talks about how amazing Canada's animation industry used to be. And for a lot of people who don't know, like, we used to like punch way above our weight, like Franklin and Little Bear and Babar. And I don't know if any of those shows are ringing any bells for you guys, but there were a ton. So it used to provide hundreds, thousands of jobs. And when you look at the amount of money that would be required to just keep this industry afloat, it's like you could throw $1 billion at it, hire 1,000 workers for $1 billion, right? And we're talking about giving $13 billion for a battery plant that's going to create 1,000 jobs. So it's like, why don't you guys triage the industries, create jobs where they can be created right away? Trainwreck, are you American or Canadian? Because those are all Canadian shows. Yeah. Yes, Canada used to be a way cleaner country. Yeah, Trainwreck. So all of those shows were Canadian shows. There's actually a bunch that people are really surprised when they hear about that are Canadian. Let's get into some more of the Jimmy. Actually, yeah. Did you guys hear about the new gun ban debate that was happening with the leaked audio? I wanted to talk about that as well, just because it was insane that he admitted that, okay. And then I wanted to see what the Australian coverage was of the Jimmy Kimmel. But let's get into this video quickly.
Mr. Speaker, on Sunday I had a conversation with an individual that I've known for many years who recorded it without my knowledge and had it leaked to a gun lobbyist. In that conversation, Mr. Speaker, the subject of the assault-style firearms buyback compensation program was discussed. In trying to address this issue, Mr. Speaker, the individual.
I also, before we fully get into this, I have a huge point that I want to talk about that happened in the leaked audio that somehow nobody's brought up, but I think it's the most illegal part.
Frustration, my comments were misguided. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, it's important to have the program in place. Is what Canadians are looking for. And I do want to note that the Leader of the Opposition has voted against every single gun measure.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. by freeing rampant gun criminals and wasting billions of dollars of police and border resources targeting law-abiding, licensed, trained, and tested firearms owners, this government has overseen a 130% increase in violent gun crime. But over the weekend, the Minister of Public Safety accidentally told the truth, and he was recorded doing it. He said that the gun grab is not worth the money, that it will go over budget, and it would be better just to lock up the criminals, but that they're going ahead with the bad policy because it's good politics. Does the Prime Minister agree?
So he asks that questions there. So the bigger issue that I had with the recording, and I've not seen anyone mention this on the recording, Gary Anandasangari, or however you say his last name, either way, we all know, his background with the 3 accusations of the political enthusiast organizations. But in that recording, did you guys hear the part? Sorry, excuse me, for all those who joined late, dealing with strep throat right now. That's why I wasn't able to get the video out in time. But so in the recording, he specifically says, because a guy asks, you want to buy back our guns, but you want to buy them back for lower than market value. So we're going to be losing money on all of these things. And because that person's pushing back to try and buy his vote, Gary says, well, for you, and he says it specifically to the guy, he goes, for you, I'll personally guarantee that we give you enough money to make sure that you're paid back. So he tries to bribe that guy on tape, and nobody's talking about that. Like, he specifically says, like, for you, I'll make sure that I'll personally guarantee it that you get enough money. Well, that seems like corruption. That seems like bribery. I don't know, like, the full details. Obviously, these are just allegations and the recordings just came out, but it's like, how can he take one of the dissenters and say, just for you personally, I'm going to personally guarantee that you get your money back? And I was like, that's got to be illegal, right? And yeah, so you guys are kind of saying like that this is like scripted and all these things, and I do agree. Like, for the most part, these people just read off their written statements, and that's why I don't cover too much of this stuff live in the House. But the fact is, this is where the new laws are created. But when it comes to corruption, I found it really funny because, so I don't know if you guys saw, but Indonesia just had a huge uprising. They burned down a bunch of government buildings. A bunch of people were rioting. It got insane. And this has been happening for the last few weeks in Indonesia. But things are really starting to escalate. And then you found out why these people were rioting, and it's like, the government was just kept giving themselves raises. They kept doing this, and then Sean Fraser. So anyways, this Indonesia stuff has been insane. Kenzie, thanks, great to see you in the chat, thank you. But basically, I personally believe most of these people we're seeing are taking money in some sort of way. There's some level of corruption, and again, that I'm not proving it. These are allegations, but obviously we've seen with the amount of waste in Canada's government and America, you don't get to run away scot-free. There's obviously a lot of money that goes around from what do they call? What's the way that they use it? Lobbyists. And obviously, there's corruption in other ways with all these things. But in Indonesia, these people find ways to hide it. So when they give themselves a raise, it's like, it's only going to be an $8,000 raise. Hart, I don't post on X. I don't actually have an X account. I should be active. If I started making an X account, I'll let you guys know so you can follow me on there. I just have an account to research, but I don't actually have like an account with my name on it. It's just like a random thing. I don't post anything. But the North American politicians do all of the corruption that was happening in Indonesia just basically the Indonesian politicians are way worse at it. The Indonesian politicians, so keep in mind, like their annual income will be like $400 a year for the average Indonesian. It's like super low. That's like USD. And then the Indonesian politicians are driving around in Lamborghinis and Range Rovers and all of these things. Like that's how big the gap is. Where in Canada, it's like, oh, okay, you know, these politicians are paying themselves way too much, in my personal opinion, but it's at least enough to kind of like hide it. Like, oh, it's 2 or 3 times the average income. So people are mad, but not enough to like have an uprising. Where in like Indonesia, they're like, oh, you in the government, you make 150 times the average income. And then people were like, not to laugh, people were starving. It was brutal. But, you know, they were just way worse at the corruption, basically, is my tale of the tape there. Greg, you're thinking I would get banned on X, possibly. I don't know. I haven't started posting on there. I gotta be careful, I guess. You know, we're just talking about foreign entrepreneurs and Jimmy Kimmel. Actually, I did want to see, because obviously when I'm doing my coverage and I'm trying to find information on all these things, I try to see coverage from all the angles. So like I'll even go to international channels, and that's how I hear about the Indonesia and all these things. But I wanted to see what they had to say about Jimmy Kimmel as well.
4 in a row? Oh, I see.
Jeepers.
Perfect combo.
Thanks, Jeff.
Epic Bets, VIP experience, no gimmicks. Download the app, TonyBet. We're here to play.
Breaking news for you here. Late night talk show host Jimmy Kimmel will return to air tonight following his abrupt suspension last week. His show was indefinitely taken off the air after networks of affiliate stations threatened ABC over comments the host made about the response to Charlie Kirk's death. In a statement, the Walt Disney Company, who owns ABC America, says, "Last Wednesday, we made the decision to suspend production on the show to avoid further inflaming a tense situation at an emotional moment for our country. It is a decision we made because we felt some of the comments were ill-timed and thus insensitive. We have spent the last days having thoughtful conversations with Jimmy, and after those conversations, we reached the decision to return the show on Tuesday."
AKA, hey guys, you owe me $100 million if you cancel my show. We all know it comes down to the almighty dollar when it comes to these organizations. Like they're clearly not just coincidentally out of nowhere being like, you know what, we really thought about it and we want to be like the good guys here. We're going to keep Jimmy Kimmel on the air. It's like, no, you guys, we're going to lose $100 million or more as that was happening. So yes, train wreck, it is true. These are the official statements here. That's why we've been talking about it, because the Kenzie, I think that the show was losing a ton of money, but there's also like contractual obligations now that will just cost them similar amounts of money, so they may as well keep a product on the air that it's going to be like, all right, if either way we got to lose like either 80 million or 100 million, just keep Jimmy Kimmel on the air. Let's try and like remove the controversy and move on. Yeah, well, interesting you say that, Ray, because I do find people, you know, on the right usually, yeah, that could be true too, Brian, that maybe he's got some insider secrets that he's going to release. But I do think that people on the right are just often more forgiving, where like people on the left just kind of spiral and freak out and just kind of sort of secret king in the corner a bit. But the yeah, what was the other thing that I wanted to talk about? There's something with CTV, because this is kind of like a live look into just panning through some research that we're going to do. Also, guys, comment down below. I was thinking about possibly streaming in some mornings, maybe around like 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock, just like while I'm in like deep research, and just kind of do that live with you guys, because I think it would be cool to kind of share that with you, where you guys could maybe send me like articles or tweets or things that you think that would like fit the narrative, or either just stuff that you think that's cool and want to talk about. That was a big point of this stream here too, because obviously, you know, I missed my video based on the strep throat as we fight through here, but I just also wanted to interact with you guys more. So what do you guys think? Comment down below. Mountain Standard Time. So I'm EST. So 10 yeah, I guess I should be specific. It would be 10 a.m. EST. Okay, 12 p.m. EST would be tough just because I'm usually getting closer to my filming planning by then. Because I don't know if you guys know, but I research, film, plan, do my thumbnails, do my titles, do everything, and I edit all myself. And because I do all of it myself, I kind of have to, like, I have a workflow that I have to kind of stick to all day. That's kind of like, it's hard for me to push it too late into the day as far as the stream is concerned. Like, I almost have to stop at 12. But yes. So what do you guys think? Yeah, well, I was thinking 10 a.m. EST because that is the closer part. That would kind of make sense for a lot of people, although I guess we'd lose a lot of the West Coasters. Where you guys, can some of you guys comment down below where you guys are from, just so I get like a good good kind of view of it as well. I know a lot of you guys watch on TV, so I know it's going to be hard for you to actually comment. But yeah, there was lots of there. Yeah, 10 a.m. in Alberta would be a little early, but I mean, I'm sure if it was just in the background while we were doing research, like going over these articles, like this is the article that I really wanted to, you know, get into on a lot of this stuff. Oh, Buffalo, New York, New Brunswick, Fort McMurray. Ah, she's a cruel mistress, Aaron. She's a cruel mistress. Let's see what we got here. Oh, yeah, I was going to go to some American coverage, too. I like to get both sides. There was a big American video that I wanted to talk about. Oh, did you guys hear TC Energy, a Canadian company, is investing another North Dakota? Hell yeah. Well, I mean, North Dakota, you guys are so, like, you're just basically cooler Canadians in North Dakota. Okay, well, we'll let your parole officer know that that's fine. Let's see what they had to say here.
Hi.
I think Arizona's a couple hours behind. Hard.
I'm Liz.
Neil. Steve.
Mary Lou. Jennifer.
And I love my business.
The UK, Australia, and Canada all formally recognizing a Palestinian state yesterday. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer writing on X this: to revive the hope of peace for the Palestinians and Israelis in a two-state solution, the United Kingdom formally recognizes the state of Palestine. He explained further in a video message. Watch this.
Let's be frank.
DC.
Hamas is a brutal terror organization. Our call for a genuine two-state solution is the exact opposite of their hateful vision. So we are clear, this solution is not a reward for Hamas because it means Hamas can have no future, no role in government, no role in security. And we have already prescribed and sanctioned Hamas, and we will go further.
President Trump disagreed.
Yeah, I think everybody, the funny thing is, he, like, Starmer was called out directly about this announcement while Trump was there, and he's like, no, I'm not waiting to announce this after Trump leaves. And they're like, well, aren't you just going to announce it the next day after he leaves? He's like, no, I wouldn't do that. I'm not going to do that. He's waited 48 hours, and then Trump was gone. Now it was safe to announce. Yes, Kenzie, I also cannot stand this guy. Because unfortunately, you know, just with America and Canada having such European roots, you know, UK does sort of set the tone. Like, they were one of the ones originally who was like helping fight for free speech and these other things. So you see their like insane levels of, I also love bacon. And And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that, especially because, growing up as a millennial, it was peak bacon core. But let's see what they have to say next.
Agrees, telling reporters pressuring Israel into a longer-term solution would be a reward to Hamas. The president will meet with dozens of world leaders tomorrow at the 80th UN General Assembly here in New York, which gets underway today. More key U.S. allies also expected to recognize Palestinian statehood, including France and Saudi Arabia. On the two-state solution, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu simply says, quote, "It will not happen." Let's bring in Heritage Foundation.
Seems like a tough thing to get started, but yes, when it comes to just general optics for that between Canada and the U.S. So again, as Mark Carney continues to actively avoid any meetings with Trump, he made this announcement, which I think it was just a distraction thing, because I think the deficit spending is going to come out so much worse than they said. So they need to have Canadians and people so distracted that they're just making these announcements because it's like, hey, we're really helping out there. And it's like, well, Canadians are struggling. Is there a way that we can find a way to help out here? Yeah, Netanyahu is a warmonger. That is true. Yeah, he actually is. he's always looking for something. Starmer is a worm. Yes, millennials were the last sane generation. Things are getting wacky. Although I will say, because part of the reason that I do my videos here too is I don't want everybody to black pill. I want a white pill. I want people to know that there is future possibility of success here. So there's information that's coming out now that Gen Z is now going to, in theory, be one of the most conservative groups, and that Gen Alpha for sure is, and a lot more people are coming back to the church, interestingly enough, which I found pretty wild with that. But then Kenzie, I am also Scottish, so there you go. There was a Fox Business clip. Okay, Americans who are in the chat, I know it's fun to make fun of Canada because we've got a lot of problems here. But every time I see a Crockett video, I'm like, okay, so America's got its problem. America's got its problems too, because this is just. Oh, have you guys seen that that other mayor who's like the most corrupt mayor in the world? I love that lady. She just goes around, she buys herself Rolexes, and she buys herself Rolexes, and she's like, "It's for the community," and it's like, okay, okay, I like that. Is Karen Bass? Is that the mayor? Oh no, Karen Bass. That's the mayor of DC, right? No, there's another. She's like a small town mayor, and she's. I'll see if I can find the video. It's so insane. Oh no, LA. Well, is it just most corrupt mayor in America? Oh look, there's my stream. This is the lady. Have you guys never seen this lady? She's so funny. I'll see if I can find it.
If you are sleeping in a position like this, you are wrecking your body and your breathing. Obstructive sleep apnea happens.
Sir, can you explain? Her story's like legitimately, it's like corruption on steroids.
Explain to us a little bit.
I wanna, you guys step over there on public property.
The goons have come out.
Yes, Tiffany Hayner. I love this one.
Tommy G, they call me. Milwaukee representative. Hello, folks. I'm Tommy G. Today we're looking into the most corrupt mayor in America, allegedly. The mayor. Is she a hero?
And we have to say allegedly, but the evidence was pretty convincing.
Hero or a villain?
No.
Well, Borough State Blues, like, I think housing, again, like, you know, to bring it back to the foreign entrepreneurs and, you know, immigration, it's the clearest fix. You know, you just have to ask the people, like, okay, housing's such a problem. All right, be honest. If we removed 1 million people, what do you think happens to all of those housing units? It's immediately free. And not free, sorry, immediately cheaper. Not free.
We're in a town with potentially one of the most corrupt mayors in America. We're still looking, but this is just for videotaping. Look how many police they brought out here. Are you gonna get in your vehicle? I'll get in mine, you get in yours? One day while scrolling through TikTok, I was assaulted by a barrage of videos covering Dalton, Illinois Mayor Tiffany Henyard. She refers to herself as the super mayor as well as the most powerful woman in Chicago's South Side. But does she use her power for good? People on the internet and in her own community have been calling her the most corrupt mayor in America, and here are some of the things she's been accused of. Stripping business licenses away from people that don't contribute to her charity, pay-for-play kickbacks and bribes, taking lavish first-class trips on the taxpayer dime,
$67,000 is crazy because that's more than what international government employees like MPs, governors, premiers, that's like more than what they pay.
Making the city pay for her own personal ice skating rink, using the taxpayer money as a marketing budget for self-promotion for things like 122 billboards with her face on it, and using tens of thousands of taxpayer money dollars per month to hire a PR firm that's designed to clean up her image. And I'll give her this, her image is tough to clean up. Here's some more reasons why. She double dips as both the mayor of Dalton and the Village of Thornton Township supervisor, and she's made it so that if she's not re-elected as supervisor, the incoming person would receive a 90% pay cut.
That's my favorite part of the whole thing. Hey, if you guys vote me out, the next person, I'm going to make a law where they make 90% less than I do. She basically was like a warlord, like a crime warlord for this area. And especially because she has private driver, private security, all that stuff. And you look at how small the area she was in was crazy. And to answer your guys' question about the Alberta separation there, or the statement, I should say, Fred, if Alberta leaves, will Canada totally fall apart? Yes, I do think that there's no financial future for Canada if Alberta were to leave, especially if they were to leave and form some sort of economic union with the United States. Again, I always say I'm not a big fan of any part of Canada becoming the 51st state, only because you don't want to give Canadians American voting rights, even though obviously most of the Canadian viewers on the channel here, I would like to think, are probably not going to be voting for the Democrats anytime soon if you're going to be moving down to the US. The big issue is, a lot of people don't know this, but the Alberta government has actually been campaigning for more immigrants to come to Alberta. And so they have one of the largest growing populations of immigrants currently. Well, not the largest growing, I should say the largest rate of growth of immigrants is in Alberta, the rate of growth. And unfortunately, when those people start to come, they get naturalized and they get citizenship. You have a lot of people who are going to start voting, unfortunately, not the way that you want. And I do think that they are stopping it now. Danielle Smith has made some announcements very, very recently that they want to have more control of the immigration, and that she wants to make sure that it's more strategic. But at the same time, as recent as a few months ago, Alberta still had it in place that they were actively recruiting police officers from other countries, including Nigeria, India, Philippines, all sorts of places, that I was like, okay, well, if we're going to try and have Alberta be the shining light of freedom of Canada, which as of right now, it seems like it's the only province position to do so, need to make sure we protect Alberta. But again, I don't think you should give Alberta or Canada. This is why, in my personal opinion, if the US, first of all, I do love Canada, and I would much rather prefer that we just got a serious Canadian government so that we could remain a strong Canadian country with Canada's history, touching our roots, all of those things that are important. But if we are going to sell out to an international country, which is seeming like it's going to be India, China, one of the two, I think that we should definitely be just taken over by the US, if that's going to happen. And again, that is obviously assuming a bunch of these parts start to sort of move along and build up. But the big thing would be, if that were to happen, only make Canada a US territory similar to Puerto Rico, where Puerto Ricans can vote in like a fun election where they're like, oh, you say we're just gonna do some voting, man. Hey, oh, they just start like dancing at the voting booths. But the votes don't actually mean anything in Puerto Rico. They don't actually get any seats in the electoral college, any of that stuff. So I think it would be prudent to do the same thing in Canada, where Canadians are allowed to vote for fun, but like it doesn't actually mean anything for the American elections, because we can see now that like Canadians, like well, train wreck. It would just, in my personal opinion, we would just set it up similar to how Puerto Rico votes. So that like basically, yep, the votes, you can vote, but like you just don't get any seats, so like it doesn't actually affect anything. But I think like when we look at like the global security risks, I mean, we got domestic security risks, obviously, talk about this mayor here and everything that's going on in Canada, but when we talk about global security risks and what like the value is of the reindustrialization, I actually, because I'm so pro-America and like America's success, the reason I am so pro-America is because Canada is huddled up to America for warmth. So if America's crushing it generally, historically, up until the liberals came in and wanted to make it a contentious relationship, if America's crushing, it usually meant Canada's probably crushing too. Yeah, Kenzie, if Alberta could get a new constitution, that would be big, because it would change, you know, I mean, technically a lot of people think Canada has free speech, but Canada technically does not have free speech. You have free speech up until the government finds something offensive. Then it's no longer free speech. Let's read the chat a little bit. Join the best. Yeah, we should join the US. Yeah, and Brian, you're right that the Somalis own all of Minneapolis. Like, I don't know how that happened. But I guess, yeah, when you got Tim Waltz in charge, then you just end up with all of those communities just getting utterly destroyed. Teapon Timothy, that's the one. Okay, sorry, just catching up on the chat, guys. It's hard when I start talking, especially my throat's killing me, so I'm distracted with that too. Again, not to beat a dead horse, but anybody who joined recently dealing with strep throat, so that's why we didn't get the video out. Yes, but long story short, I am very pro-America. That's why I always make the joke, the Mount Up Patriots joke. I don't know if you guys can see my Trump Vance mug. So I basically want Canada and the US to build the strongest economic zone in the world. And obviously, as you guys know, well, maybe you guys don't know, but historically, they say empires usually last around 250 years, and then people have been drawing all these comparison to the U.S. and 250 years, and maybe they're at the twilight stage of the American empire, and I actually don't think that has to be the case. Not only do I not think that has to be the case, I think right now America is positioned to be to remain the global power. And especially, in my personal opinion, it would extend America's empire by another 250 years. First of all, if America took over Canada, then 1,000%. But even if there was just a strong economic partnership, like a union created, if you want to call it similar to the EU, even though I hate the EU, it would create such like an economic powerhouse, because Canada can supply most of the rare earth minerals, like most of the things that are getting supplied from Chinese companies, which are just, you know, using slave labor in Africa anyways. Not that I'm like some super anti-China guy. And I want to, because we're all here hanging out, whenever I say things against the countries, you know, like China, like Russia, it's not like because I'm just like instantly against those countries. It's, I personally believe like you have a global battle for economic dominance. And you do, like, it is a zero-sum game. Like when manufacturing goes to one country, it is taken out of another country for the most part. So I obviously want the US to be the one who's winning all of those manufacturing deals, and Canada, to be fair. Ooh, Brampton your whole life. That must be brutal. So, interesting, Heartman, and any Canadians, you guys should weigh in down below too. And I've said this in other videos. We grow up in Canada with just like an underlying sentiment of, okay, at least I'm not American. And it's kind of like, why? America's crushing it. So, you know, like that's why when I showed those videos of the Canadians who were like thinking that they are way better than Americans, it's just such a dated view. And it was because I found out a bit of history on it. Maybe we could do a stream and watch a video on it sometime. But like America is so much better in so many ways. Like again, I love Canada. I love being Canadian. I'm happy that I'm here, but I love America too. Nothing beats American freedom. Yes, Trainwreck. If you repeat a lie enough times, people start to believe it, and unfortunately, they drove up all this division, and that's why it's so funny. Because I always say to people, they're like, "Oh man, Americans," and I'm like, "Can you name me a time where you actually met an American, like in person? You had a discussion with them, whatever it was, and you didn't like get along with them? You found that they were a worse person than the Canadians?" I don't know if I've told this story on the channel, but in all of my travels, in all of the countries that I've been to, you know, which is including a bunch of Asian countries, the US, you know, parts of Europe, whatever, I've only ever almost been in a fight one time. Only one time. And that one time was with another Canadian guy. He was from Alberta. And I find that really funny that in all of my travels, I've only almost been in a fight once. And it was with a guy from Alberta. Come on. That's got to be some dark humor in there somewhere, guys. We gotta laugh at the funny stuff. But let's continue to hear about our girl Tiffany, because this story is insane for those who are unaware.
Racked up credit card debt like she's trying to set a record, and she tells the residents things like better have my money and compares herself to Martin Luther King. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's alleged that she rolls around like a crime boss. Some people claim that she's even gone as far as having the cars of people that oppose her shot up to intimidate them. She rolls around in a convoy of extensive private security, of course on the taxpayer dollar, and it's said that she has the police force in her pocket partly due to the outrageous amounts of overtime she allows her officers to be paid. Again, on the taxpayer dollar. I hope you're noticing the theme here. Unfortunately for Tiffany and her police chief lapdog, Officer Lewis Lacey, I have in my possession receipts, disciplinary forms, documents, and insider information that we will be diving into in great detail today. Folks,
So long story short, you guys get it with the video there on her being completely corrupt and everything that was going on. But yes, Boreal State Blues, Brampton is the place. Actually, if you guys want to watch a good video after this to understand did you guys see the Roka News video? Roka News India. That's really funny. So this is a video on Brampton right here. Man, I'm getting a million ads.
We've all been there.
So this is Brampton, and this is basically, you know, we'll show a few minutes of this, but then you guys should go watch it later, just so that they can get the views, because they do travel around a lot. But this is Brampton here.
Canada has changed, and nowhere more so than Brampton, Ontario. 60 years ago, Brampton was a farming town of 18,000 people. Today, it's a metropolis of 750,000, a majority of whom are of Indian descent.
Well, we're now a minority, and we never were before, so that's kind of a tough pill to swallow.
If there is more immigrants came, we should be like a...
It's not the Monkey King. It's some other monkey god that they have. The Monkey King's Chinese, I think.
Very happy.
They sell amongst themselves, live amongst themselves, pay no taxes.
I didn't see any discrimination since I came here.
How did this happen, and how did the locals feel about it? We went to find out. We'll get to the Indian side of Brampton, but the first thing we saw in the city was this.
You want to see reality? Go through these doors here, go downstairs, walk around, take a look what you see. I'll give you an idea of what goes on in Brampton.
In this basement were dozens of homeless people, non-Indian, looking for a free meal. We saw...
Yeah, and here's the thing that we have to discuss around, you know, the homeless and immigration and all that stuff, because people are saying, oh, all the homeless people, they're all, you know, Canadian, blah, blah, blah. But you understand that, again, there's a limited amount of resources that have to be divided around the people. When we have millions of people coming into the country illegally, legally, semi-legally, whatever you want to classify all of the ways that they come through, there is a divided the resources get divided because it's like, oh, okay, well, now we need to make sure that the asylum seekers are taken care of and the refugees and all these people. And when you only have limited resources, like, now imagine if we could say, okay, well, we've got these pipelines set up, we're working with the US, we've got a trade deal set up, like, we've shut down immigration so we don't have to worry about these crime problems. Like, where do we start to increase police presence? Where do we start to make sure that these people have access to resources? Like, when you hear about the food banks, and this is he does look benevolent for sure, but the I can only say a DZ license center. That's really funny, right? But for my personal anecdotal story, one of the gyms I used to go to was right next to a food bank. So I would see the clientele who would go in to that food bank and they'd walk out with bags of food. And I would watch groups of foreign entrepreneurs show up in Lexus, Acura, or even just regular like Toyotas and other like entry-level brands, but nice newer ones because they're new to Canada, so they bought new vehicles, and they would walk out with bags of food, and then people wonder, well, hey, like, what's going on? Like, why are our food banks so overwhelmed? And it's like, well, because people who pull up in a Lexus or an Acura, I've seen that personally, so I don't have to say, like, oh, according to online or according to Reddit or whatever. It's like, no, me. I've seen these people do it. Show up to the food banks, and then they would take the food out in bags with nice cars. So, like, sure, maybe it was a family friend who drove them there, and they were the one in the back seat who was poor and needed the food. Maybe, but I watched this happen more than once. It wasn't one time. It was all sorts of times. So when you see these things, it's like, yeah, they are taking up resources for sure.
Saw the same scene in every Canadian downtown we visited.
Hey, no video. They told us inside that we were allowed to. Not here.
In the city center, everyone brought up how the city had changed. Some were happy, many were not.
There used to be a town of 28,000 people. Now it's got probably got 1 million.
How much of that is from the growth of the city? People moving here from other parts of Canada. How much of that do you think is from immigration?
All of it, and specifically out of one country. Just look around you. What do you see?
A lot of Indian people.
Right.
We didn't know there were rednecks in Canada, honestly.
More every day.
Why is that?
Exactly. Because the way the country's going.
Say more about that. What do you mean?
Immigration. Like, I came from Portugal. My dad was here before us. We have to have a visa. My father had to produce that he could support us.
Another thing is another thing is that when it comes to, and part of the reason why I started the channel and why I appreciate you guys watching and hanging out and all that stuff is I'm trying to spread the message that we are allowed to speak in objective truths. Like, that guy was some of these people are so hesitant to just be like, you always see like, immigration, and they get like, people just, they hold back. And it's like, if you are just speaking in objective truths, if you are communicating ideas that are based in reality, you have not said anything wrong. If people choose to take offense to what you've said, that is on them. And that's why, again, I'm like so big on this channel and why I encourage you guys to be in your community too. Just speaking and identifying truths, because I heard a saying a while ago. I did not make this up, but I usually respond to it because anytime I say liberal boomers, for some reason, people think I'm calling every single boomer a liberal, which I'm not doing, because obviously every single boomer is not liberal. That's insane. But when I say liberal boomers, I'm specifically talking about liberal boomers, and people get offended at that. And I always say the saying is, if you leave an insult on the ground, the owner will come by and pick it up, which means don't pick up the insult if you don't feel like it belongs to you. Because if it doesn't, then you just leave it on the ground and ignore it. So if I say liberal boomers and you're not a liberal boomer, then I'm not talking about you. But this applies to everything that we're talking about here. that with just like speaking in truths and like needing to identify like what you find the most offensive or not. And the other thing is to if people start to like call you names and these other things for speaking in truths, just be like, yeah. It's kind of like how we've had to speak when it comes to the immigration stuff. Well, you're just a colonizer. Like, yeah, I am actually a colonizer, and that's pretty cool. Because when you look at the history of colonization and of settling, like, there's actually nothing more impressive than our ancestors coming to North America and building one of the, or two of the best nations in the world. Sorry, Mexico, I've been leaving you out on the sidelines, but that is technically a European colonized. Sorry, guys, I'm sorry, I'm falling apart here because of the strep. I'm in like my nose and all these things. But anyways, settlers, colonizers, it doesn't matter like what you want to say. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey guys, we built these amazing countries and all that stuff. But thanks. I'm going to probably end the stream here, but I wanted to say, just because my throat is absolutely killing me, I'm talking a lot considering I got strep, and I need to rest up for tomorrow because we will get a video out tomorrow. But I just wanted to say thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for being live in the chat, because it also makes streaming more fun when you guys are active in the chat. I'm going to continue to work around the ideas of, are we going to be streaming from 10 a.m. EST to 12 p.m. EST? And then, you know, you guys can join in more and, you know, share stuff. Because, again, as I said earlier, I do everything on the channel myself. So, like, you know, research takes a long time. Editing, shooting, planning, thumbnails, every single thing. So if you guys find stories, it would be great for us to, like, do streams like this where you guys can bring something that I might not have seen. Like, I can only watch so much news in a day, and I try to cover everything. Like, I even watch CNN coverage, CBS coverage, you know, obviously all of pretty much every mainstream news network, but I try to get even the, like, if I can, Juno News or the Western Standard or these smaller things. Yes, thanks for all the well wishers in the comments, but I think that's what we're going to work towards. I think we're building a good community here, guys. I think it's been nice to have you guys involved, and I see your comments. Like, you guys comment on every video, and I really appreciate it. Yes, Dave, it is a full-time job. It's been taking up a ton of my time, and it's not exactly paying the bills yet, so I'm taking a bit of a risk here by continuing to double down. That's why I like that we're at least getting the message out there and people are finding the information helpful. And I'm sure you guys can see, like, I really enjoy talking about the economics and the macro side of things. You know, almost all of my coverage is North America, just because I'm, like, just such a big Canada and US guy. But we are going to end the stream or my throat's going to explode. So thank you again, and I will talk to you guys later. And should I end the same way I end the videos? Have a great